Tayaganya, welcome to the Warby-Ovens. Welcome to Eorga Waka, my stony country. This country here is very unique and very special to us as Yorta Yorta people. This country out here falls under part of the Yorta Yorta Nation. This is a very diverse country compared to the typical Yorta Yorta Nation, where there's a lot of floodplain ecology, red gums, and that's part of this landscape here too in the Warby-Ovens. But in particular, these big granite outcrops are very unique and very diverse when it comes to plant species for our people, but also from a cultural perspective. These are high places of lookout and ceremony and country as well.
So the Warbies is unique in the sense that it has three really distinct landscapes. So we've got the Warby Ranges, which are the granitic hill slopes, where you'll see the grass trees and the xanthorrheas. The second section as we move off the range is the Killawarra section, where we see the Box-Ironbark forests and a number of our threatened woodland bird species. That then moves down into the Riverine section, where we see our wetlands. Iconic species within the Warby-Ovens are the xanthorrhea, so the grass trees. They're prolific throughout the Warby Range section of the park. Burrwing wattle is another common species you'll find on the ranges. As you move down into the Killawarra section, you'll find your threatened woodland birds, so turquoise parrot and swift parrot. And then moving into the red gum or the Ovens River section, you'll see your iconic river red gums. So we're not the only ones that think it's special. Back in August 2021, the park was awarded the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Green List, the 4th in Australia and 1st in Victoria.
So the Green List is really two things. It's an international standard of what represents good management of protected and conserved areas. So it's a guide to park staff for them to identify and to recognise what are the things that make a difference, that represent quality in park management. But it's also a list. It's a list of sites that have gone through a process of certification to demonstrate with evidence that they're meeting that standard. When we first heard that Parks Victoria was nominating Warby-Ovens for the Green List, we were a little puzzled about why they chose that. But when we saw the information about the park, both its biological importance, where it sits within the landscape, but also the way they're working with the local community, it made a lot of sense. And that was reinforced when we came to visit, to really appreciate what a gem of a park it is, both biologically and its importance for the local community, for Indigenous people. So it's a really good choice of a site for the IUCN Green List.
So we're in Killawarra Forest, which is one of the few remnant areas of good quality, lowland, fertile woodland. It's one of the real hotspots for the swift parrot and for woodland birds in general. We're here today with some, nature enthusiasts and bird watchers and interested locals to learn about the swift parrot ecology and how citizen scientists can make a real contribution towards learning more about where the species occurs. The swift parrot has been recognised as threatened for a number of years, and as recently as 5 years ago we thought there was maybe as few as 2,000 left in the wild. But some recent research has suggested that that's probably an overestimate. The best estimate is about 750 wild birds remaining. National parks like the Warby-Ovens National Park are really critical for the swift parrot and Norwegian honeyeater and other woodland birds. They've got opportunities for the species in them to use these as refuges and to build their populations, and as we do revegetation on private land and expand the public reserve system, these kind of original well-managed areas will be the source areas for the species to expand in the future.
So over the last couple of months, we've been working with a community group on establishing a friends group. Although I guess only in their infancy at this stage, they're already working on working bees and have a full program ahead of them for this coming year.
Yesterday, we had a working bee, the first working bee of the Warby-Ovens National Park Friends of. And it was mainly made up of bushwalkers. We were virtually sons or daughters of this original movement back in the 1970s, the Warby Range Preservation Society, who started to look at the Warby Range and the Killawarra as being places of significance. And there were quite a few threats starting to appear. So there's quarrying going on. There was starting to be mining leases, starting to sniff around for other things going on. That was sort of the, I guess, the reason for some people to get really activated. And so we get a state park by the late 70s, early 80s. And since then, sections of private land have come back to the Crown, and therefore the state park increased in size. In 2010, the Warby-Ovens National Park was created. And then of course in 2021, it has international status, which is pretty incredible when you think of this broken bits of Crown land 30 or 40 years before. Hopefully it will energise people to spend more time enjoying those three areas, but also to spend a bit of time helping with the conservation and the health of these three areas. It should be a park where locals really can be proud of having this facility and I guess interact with it in a very positive way. And obviously there's canoeing and there's bushwalking and there's bird watching and there's biking and there's numerous sort of activities, recreation activities, which can be enjoyed in this beautiful Warby-Ovens National Park.
I spoke to some elders this morning before I ventured across here and got their thoughts of what they want to hear come from this and some of their ideas and their beliefs. And we as Yorta Yorta Nation, we have a whole of country plan, and the ideals and the beliefs of this plan that have been put together by the Yorta Yorta people themselves, aligns with the green listing. It talks about protecting and preserving not only the unique biodiverse sort of parts of country through here, it's about education as well. There's 150 different types of birds that inhabit these Warby-Ovens area, and 18 of these are actually under threat. So the education and the frameworks that are set in place to not only protect and preserve this is, this is what my elders are looking for, and the relationship that we have had with this country since time began is, aligns with these principles. Without these little pockets of this resource, this country being left alone, we're, as a people, we're at a loss. And that's not just Indigenous people, that's all people. And we really need to work together to preserve and protect these environments.